Just a quick note that if you notice that your microphone is live, if it's hot, if you could just make sure that you stay muted. You can see that we're almost 70 strong today, so that's too many people to have on audio. So if we can just keep everyone muted, that'd be really helpful. So good afternoon. I want to first of all thank you all for joining me today. This is the very first online pension and benefits seminar that we've had, and it's had some really strong response from everyone. Everyone's been really excited about it, so it's great to see so many people joining us. I just have a couple of housekeeping items that I want to quickly go through before we get started. First of all, this is being recorded, so if you have to step away from the meeting or if you're having technical difficulties, it will be available online afterwards, so you'll be able to view it at your convenience. Once again, if you could just make sure that your microphone is on mute. I'm so happy that we have so many people joining us, but it's just too many people for us all to share audio time. If you'd like to ask a question, it's definitely encouraged. Just make sure that you use the chat feature in the GoToMeetings. So you can do this at any time during the presentation, but I'm not really going to start looking at the questions in the chat until we get to the end. I'd also ask that if you have a specific question about your particular congregation, if you could contact our office separately outside of the seminar time. I really want to try to keep the questions that we go over today broad and generic so that they can be useful for everyone who's joining us. If you're joining us by phone only today and want to send in a question, you can do so by sending me an email. And that email address would be pension@presbyterian.ca. So pension@presbyterian.ca. And I'll check that as we're going through questions at the end. A quick note on terminology. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to refer to members of the pension and benefit plans. A member just means it could be a minister or another church employee who participates in either one of these plans, either the pension or the benefits or both. And then lastly, this is, like I said, the very first seminar that our office is hosting. So I hope that everyone can be a little forgiving if we encounter any hiccups, technologically wise or otherwise. There will be a survey that I'm going to send out after we're done. And if you could just offer some feedback, that would be really appreciated. I'm hoping to do more of these online learning opportunities in the future, and I want to make sure that they're useful for you. So please let me know what it is that you liked and disliked and how we can make them better. So a quick introduction. My name is Carrie McMillan, and I'm the Communications Coordinator for the Pension and Benefits Office. I started in this role a little over a year ago, and I've been working to get information into the hands of those who need it. So our active members, our retired members, and treasurers like yourselves. Now, I understand the importance of what you each contribute to your congregations, and that for many of you, for most of you in fact, this is done on a completely voluntary basis. So I want to make sure that this is helpful and useful for you. We have an hour together today, so I'm going to try to get through my material in the first 45 minutes, and then I'll get to your questions at the end. And again, if you can just submit your questions to me using the chat feature, you can either select me individually or you can send them to everyone. I'll review those once we get through the material. So this is our agenda for today. I'm going to review pension and group insurance deduction calculations, how they're done. We'll go through a couple of examples. We'll look at congregational assessments, what they are, how they're calculated. We'll go over remitting all of these funds to the Pension and Benefits Office, how that's done. And then we're going to look at sort of a year in the life of a treasurer as far as pension and benefits is concerned. So what you need to be doing on a monthly or quarterly basis and specific times of the year that things are coming up. And then finally, I'll look at some resources for congregational treasurers that I hope that you find helpful. And then I'll take questions. Now, a quick note, I want to thank everyone who submitted their questions using the online registration. a lot of people did ask specifically about T4s and income tax. And I definitely understand that this is a really key part of what you're doing, and especially right now as you're getting closer to year end. But unfortunately, a lot of the questions that were asked really do fall outside of the scope of pension and benefits. So we're not going to be going over T4s today. We're not going to be looking at income tax or anything like that. But if you do have questions regarding T4s, income tax forms, CRA requirements, anything like that, my contact information will be on display at the end of the presentation. Please contact me separately, and I will definitely make sure that you are pointed in the right direction, either to a resource that can help answer your question or someone in our office. So let's dive right in. Payments come into the pension fund in the form of both member contributions and employer contributions. Member contributions are deducted from an employee's pay and then remitted to our office. Employer contributions are sent in by churches or other employers. So one of the most common questions that our office hears is how to make these calculations. How do we know how much to deduct? So a member's pension deduction, their contribution to their plan, is 9% of their MQI. Now, related to this answer, the next most common question we get is, what is an MQI? Because it's not the same as the stipend or just the salary. So the MQI is an important place for us to start. For ministers, the MQI is calculated by taking the basic stipend and then adding 60%. And for other employees, for non-clergy employees, it's calculated by taking their salary and then adding the health and dental premium. Now, it's important to note here that for ministers who receive a housing allowance or a utility allowance in addition to their stipend, that only the stipend is used when calculating the MQI. That extra 60% that we're adding is meant to account for housing and utilities. It's also important that this calculation is what's actually used. So it's the stipend plus 60% calculation and not the...
There are no slides. We cannot see the slides, and several people have noted that in the chat. Help. It's Barbara William, WFPC.
Sorry about that.
Yes, now I can see them.
Okay, my apologies.
Thank you.
Okay, so picking back up, where was I? Right, so the minister's MQI calculation is stipend plus 60%. And it's important that the actual stipend plus 60% calculation is used, and not what the minister's take home actually is, not the actual housing and utility allowance. So it's the basic stipend plus 60%. So this is what how you calculate the MQI, and this is a pension and benefit specific figure that is used to calculate the minister's pension accrual. So the calculation, it's critical that it's done accurately in this stipend plus 60% fashion. So every year, the General Assembly approves a new minimum stipend and allowance schedule, and included with this is a new maximum for what this MQI can be. So for 2017, it was $70,920, and in 2018, it will be $71,940. So the new MQI is effective on January 1st of each year, so it's important to recalculate your deductions using that figure starting in the new year. And if your calculation, this stipend plus 60%, equals more than what the maximum established by General Assembly is, then you default to the maximum for your calculations. And we'll look at that with one of our examples in a moment. So that's MQI. So now we can move on to how the deductions themselves are actually calculated. All members, whether they're ministers or other employees, contribute 9% of their MQI to the pension fund. This total is then divided into monthly payments and deducted from the member's payroll and sent into our office. The group insurance is basically calculated in the same way that pension is. It just uses a different figure. rather than 9%, there's a group insurance rate that's approved by the Pension and Benefits Board each year. So in 2017, it's that 0.6% that you see at the top of the screen. And for 2018, it will be 0.7%. So we're in the process, quite literally right now, of mailing out the Treasurer's memos that will have all of this information on it for you. So you can expect that in your mailbox in the next week or so. And it comes at the same time every year in early November. So let's look at a couple of real life examples of how these deductions work. So our first example is going to be for a minister who makes $45,000 a year in stipend and who lives in a manse. So the first step is we want to calculate what this minister's MQI is. So we're going to use that clergy MQI calculation of stipend plus 60%, or multiply by 1.6, and that's going to give us a figure of 72,000. Now that's over our 2018 max. I'm going to be using 2018 figures for all these examples. So it's over the 71,940, so we're going to default back down to that 71,940 for all of our pension and group insurance calculations. So we'll go ahead and use that figure. So for pension, we're going to figure 9%. To figure out what the member's contribution is going to be. So we're going to multiply 71,940 by 0.09, which is 9%, to get $6,474.60. And that's the total due from this member for all of 2018. We can then break that out into a monthly deduction by dividing it by 12 to get $539.55. If your congregation pays your minister biweekly, then you would figure out the number of pay periods in the year and divide that total by the number of pay periods to get regular deductions to be taking off the payroll. For group insurance, it's virtually the same calculation. We just are going to use that group insurance rate of 0.7% for our calculation. So we multiply by 0.007, and that's going to give us the total figure of $503.58, which you can then again break out into monthly deductions or divided by the number of pay periods that you're using. Now, it's important to note here that for group insurance, if you're in Ontario, Saskatchewan, Quebec, or Manitoba, you must add tax to this deduction and then deduct that taxed total from the member. So every year we see congregations who have done the calculation correctly, they've multiplied by the rate correctly and they've gotten the total, but that they're not adding the tax, and so they're not deducting the correct amount and they end up short at the end of the year. Okay, so our second example is we have a part-time receptionist who is on the health and dental plan, works 3 days a week, and is making $20,000. So again, our first step is to determine what this person's MQI is. And we're going to use that non-clergy calculation of salary plus the health and dental premium. For 2018, the health and dental premium is $4,327. Again, that will be coming to you on your memo shortly, so you get a sneak peek, I guess. And we get an MQI calculation of $24,327. So if this member weren't participating in the health and dental plan, then you would use the salary only. But before we can continue, we need to check this calculated MQI against that maximum that's set by General Assembly. Except in this example, our member is working part-time, which means that we need to prorate the max to get the part-time equivalent based on the percentage of time that this member is working. So this member is working 3 days out of 5. 3 over 5 is 60%, so they're working 60% time. So we're going to prorate the maximum by multiplying it by 60% to get the equivalent maximum for this part-time member. So once we do that math, we see that their maximum for part-time work is $43,164. So this would need to be done for any part-time employee, both for clergy and non-clergy. So in this example, we're still well under the prorated maximum. So we can go ahead and continue to use the MQI that we calculated originally. If this employee were making $50,000 instead of $20,000, we would be over their prorated MQI max, and so we would have to default, as we did with the previous example with the minister. So we'd have to default to that $43,164 figure in all of the rest of our calculations. Okay, so for pension, again, we're going to multiply by 9% or 0.09, and we get a total figure of $2,189.43 for the year. And then we can divide that out into monthly deductions of $182.45. And then for group insurance, again, you're just going to multiply by that 0.7% rate, or 0.007, which gives you $170.29 for the year, or $14.19 per month. Again, tax needs to be added to that total, and then that total deducted if you're in Ontario, Saskatchewan, Quebec, or Manitoba. So I hope that these examples and going through them together was helpful. There's a couple points I want to stress with this before I move on though. One is that it's really important to start using the new MQI and the new rates for your calculations in January right away. Two, that whatever is deducted from the member needs to be sent to our office within 30 days. So regardless of how often the minister is being paid, and he's, if it's biweekly or monthly, we need to be getting remittances monthly. And I'll go over why that's important in a few slides. And finally, we certainly understand that this can be very confusing. These examples were pretty straightforward, and it gets very frustrating and confusing when you have people who are working partial years or part-time or moving from congregation to congregation. It can be difficult to do, and especially if you don't come from an accounting background and you're doing all of this virtually alone or for the first time. So we understand that it can be hard, and we are more than happy to help you with your calculations. We'd much rather spend time with treasurers on the phone in January, making sure that their calculations and their deductions are going to be accurate throughout the year, rather than trying to sort it out come year end in December. So if there's ever any change or you ever have any questions, please pick up the phone, send us an email. We're happy to help you with your calculations. So I'm going to move on to congregational assessments. I'm seeing a couple questions come through, which is great. I'm going to make sure that I address them at the end though, so just keep your questions coming as they come up. Okay, congregational assessments are the employer share of the pension plan. They aren't tied to a specific member or minister, but rather they go into the pension fund. And it's from this fund where all members' pensions are paid out of. So in this way, all congregations are contributing collectively to the funding of our retired members' pensions. Congregations pay this requirement regardless of if they have a current minister or not. This was a decision made by the 2014 General Assembly, and it is how the church collectively cares for the support staff and the ministers who have cared for congregations in the past. The congregational assessment is calculated using the congregation's dollar base, and it's 5% of the congregation's dollar base. Now, it was recently announced that there would be a change in which dollar base was being used, but that 5% figure hasn't changed. That's still the same. So the change that was made to which dollar base, so that now the 2017 AMP, the dollar base recorded in the 2017 AMP will be carried forward into the 2018 congregational assessment. And for the 2017 congregational assessment, it will be based on the dollar base report in the 2016 AMP. So your congregational assessments this year will be identical to what they were last year. And then this will carry forward. This allows our office to send out the assessments much earlier, which they can be sent out before budgeting meetings, and this will help congregations plan for their congregational assessment requirements well in advance. So the congregational assessments are sent out from our office at this time of year. You should have already received it. We usually will send them out in early October. So this year we've sent out paper copies of the 2017 assessments. And then in the next 2 weeks or so, we're going to be sending out email with the 2018 assessment figures. And then in January of 2018, you will receive another hard copy, a paper copy of your 2018 assessment. And then that's going to be the practice going forward. You'll get an email preview of the next year's assessment in October, and then in January of that same year, you'll receive a hard copy, a paper copy of it. From time to time, we do see congregations who have a credit on their congregational assessment, meaning that they've overpaid throughout the year, and come year end, there is a credit. And they ask, oh, can we move that credit over and use it for our members, our member requirements, our member contribution? And the answer is no. And that is because these the member contributions must be deducted from the member's paycheck. They are the members' contributions. They need to come from that source, whereas the funds for the congregational assessment are the employer's contribution, and they come from the congregation. So they come from two separate different places. So if you do see that you have a credit on your congregational assessment, it can be carried forward to the next year, or you can call our office and we can discuss it with you. So next, we're going to look at sending in your remittances. And there's a couple critical pieces of information I really want to highlight in this section. The first is that they absolutely must be paid monthly. And I really can't stress this enough. It's not an internal requirement that comes from our office, but rather it's a governmental regulators that are enforcing this on all pension plans. Our regulators want to see that our plan payments are regular and stable without major fluctuations. We do understand that this can be difficult for some congregations, but that's actually one of the reasons in the shift in how congregational assessments are being done. And now that you'll have those figures ahead of time and well in advance to know what that requirement is, and congregations can better plan for their assessments so that they can make sure that the remittances are coming in monthly. Member contributions must also be sent in monthly. By law, these deductions are required within 30 days of being collected. So sometimes we're asked, like, are they due by the 30th of the month or the 1st of the month or the 15th of the month? It's 30 days after they were deducted from the member's payroll. They need to be in the pension fund. So how can we make this easier for you while still meeting our legislative requirements? Well, we're happy to accept post-dated checks, so that you only have to, sort of do this once during the year, fill out all your checks, fill out your remittance forms, mail them to us, and you're finished. We have a lot of congregations who actually do this, who send in their whole year's worth of congregational assessment checks to us in January, and then we just cash them as they come up. We can also accept electronic fund transfers from the bank, EFT payments. Just email us if you're interested in this option. We can send you the banking details. And then we've had some congregations that have had a lot of success using telepay to send us payments. Regardless of how you're sending in your remittances, they always need to be accompanied by a remittance form. So if you're sending in post-dated checks, you can send us 12 filled out forms, or you can just indicate that you'd like to have the one form photocopied, and we can do that in our office. If you're sending funds electronically or by telepay, then you can email your forms to us. So the forms are important for a number of reasons. Most importantly, they tell us exactly how to divide up the funds on the check that you've sent. So how much of it is going towards congregational assessment, how much is member contributions, group insurance, if there's optional insurance on the check. We can't cash a check if we don't have this information. These forms also give us the information that we need to make sure that it's accurately posted to our database. So our database needs to be up to date so that when we're talking to you on the phone about your account, or if we're sending out congregational assessments, that we know exactly what was sent in and in what amounts. So in order to do this, we need to have the member ID, not their SIN number, the congregation code, the employer name, your information, the treasurer information, so that we can contact you if we have any questions, all of that. we receive hundreds of checks every week, and it really slows down our process if we have to stop and fill out and find this information for each form that's incomplete or missing. If you don't know your member's ID, then it's the same as their Sun Life ID, which is the first 3 letters of their last name and then 3 numbers that act as a unique identifier. So if your member has their health and dental, their health card, their like drug pay card, then it will have it on there. Or you can contact our office, and we're happy to give you that information. If you have multiple members, if you have a minister and congregational employees, make sure that all the funds can be sent on one check, but we still need a form for each individual. So person A will need a separate form than person B, so that we know exactly how to allocate the funds that are on that check. And if you're sending in the congregational assessment on the same check, that's completely fine. Just make sure that one of the forms has indicated how much should be allocated for the congregational assessment. If you're sending in health and dental payments or payments for Presbyterians sharing or PWS&D at the same time, 100% they absolutely cannot be on the same check. So that needs to be on a separate check. It can be put in the same envelope. I'll make sure it gets to my colleagues, but they go to completely different different funds. So that needs to be on 2 separate different checks. If you have no minister, no member, or you're part of a 2 or 3 point charge and it's the other church who's paying the minister and remitting deductions on their behalf, you still need to be sending in your congregational assessment, but you can leave the member section of the form blank. I'm going to pull up the form in just a moment so we can look at it together. Let's see if I can do that now without there. Okay, so this is our remittance form. It's important that you use this one and not the old green forms, because this one has all the information that we need on it. So you're going to want to indicate the date that you're filling out the form, or the date that the check is made out for. This is where your congregation code is going to go. So I'll just put in my initials. Your employer name is also just your congregation's name. So if you, the name of your church, your address, province, treasurer information, that's whoever is filling out the remittance form and sending it in to us. Make sure your information is included. Phone and email are critical to have on there in case there's any questions that we have. We want to make sure that we know who to get in touch with. So this is the member information. So that's going to be your minister or your church employee. Fill in their name. This is where their ID goes. And then this is the first, again, 3 letters of their last name, and then 3 numbers that are assigned as a unique identifier. And then this is where their MQI will go. If you ever have any questions, again, about how to calculate the MQI, or if it's changing, or want to confirm what your member's MQI is, then you can call us and we can help you with that as well. And then this is where it gets really good. We want to make sure that all of this information is filled in. So you want to make sure that you have exactly what's being sent in for pension contributions, and that's the members' contributions to the pension plan. Your congregational assessment is your employer share, and that's going to be down here. It's separate. So if you are a congregation with no member, with no minister, then all you'll be filling in is this congregational assessment here. So you want to fill in your members' contribution, what you've deducted from their paycheck in pension contributions, as well as group insurance. And if they've opted in for optional insurance, then that would go in there as well. And then you can include it on the same check, what you're sending in for congregational assessment. And then the beauty of the form is that it will do your math for you. So it tells you exactly what you need to fill out on your check. And so for congregations that have more than 1 member, you would complete one of these forms for each member. If you wanted to just send in 1 check, though, for all of this information, then you can just total up each form and then send it on 1 check. If you ever have any questions about remittance forms, how to fill them out, what information needs to be included on them, how to save or print them. We often get questions, oh, I filled it out, but it won't let me save it. Please go ahead and contact me. I'll show you now my favorite trick for this. The most common question I get is, I can't save the PDF after I filled it out. and so I have to do it every month. So first, you want to make sure that you're actually looking at the PDF in a PDF reader. So I'm using Acrobat, which is free to download. Completing it and trying to save it from an internet browser is much trickier and often will not work. And then my favorite trick for saving it, if it won't let you just hit the save button and save it somewhere on your computer, is to print it as a PDF, which is a roundabout way of getting the same result. So you're going to go to Print, under File, go to Print, and then from this drop down up here where you would normally select which printer you wanted to send it to, you would just select Print to PDF. And then once you actually hit print, it's going to ask you where on your computer you want to save it. And then you will be able to save it as a regular PDF and open it later and save yourself some time next month. That's one of my favorite tricks. But please, if you ever have any questions about this, pick up the phone, give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through it. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. Make sure everyone can see that. Great. Okay. Sorry, just give me a moment. There we go. So next we're going to look at some duties that congregational treasurers are doing in regards to pension and benefits throughout the year. This is a great question that came through from someone on the registration form, and so I wanted to make sure I included it. I will say this 100 times over. On a monthly basis, the remittances need to be sent to our office. So that's regardless of if your member is being paid biweekly or monthly. We need to make sure that we're getting regular monthly payment remittances from you. On a quarterly basis, you'll be receiving health and dental invoices, and those are actually sent from financial services. They're not sent from our office, which is why it's important that they are on a separate check. They can't be combined with the pension funds that you're sending in. This is the only, the health and dental is invoiced, so you do receive a bill for it that you pay against. Whereas the pension deductions and the group insurance deductions are not invoiced. That's a calculation that treasurers are expected to do themselves and then remit to us accordingly. We do send out the congregational assessments, which in effect worked as an invoice for that employer share, but we don't invoice for the member contributions or for the member group insurance. So there's sometimes a little bit of confusion there. It's also good on a quarterly basis to check that your contributions are up to date. And that can be as simple as picking up the phone and giving me a call, and I can have a look at your account and making sure that everything's being sent in. And then on an annual basis, all contributions are due in the fund by December 31st. Sorry, my computer seems to be a little slow here. There. At specific times of the year, in January, that's when the new congregational assessment is going to be mailed out, and that will be your current year's congregational assessment. So in January of 2018, you'll be receiving a paper copy of your 2018 congregational assessment. That's also when the new rates, the new MQI, the new health and dental, all of those calculations need to be updated. So those need to be used starting in January. On February 28th, that's when your T4s need to be done. So your pension adjustment needs to be done by then. Again, we're in the process right now of mailing out the memo that has the pension adjustment calculation on it. And much like the calculations, we completely understand that this can be a confusing one. And so if you're unsure of your math or you just want to check to make sure you've done it correctly, please pick up the phone, give us a call. We're happy to help you out with it. So in October, that's typically when the congregational assessments will go out from our office, and going forward, they'll be emailed. So make sure that we have an up-to-date email address for those to be sent to. And it'll be for the upcoming year. In November, we send out the upcoming year's health and dental premium, the new group insurance rate, and that maximum MQI that's set by General Assembly that will all go out on one memo. And then in December, that's when all outstanding contributions are due. We do have a treasurer's bulletin that we send out on an as-needed basis. It doesn't go out at specific regular times throughout the year. Whenever there is pertinent information, we make sure we send one out to you. Sorry, there we go. And then I wanted to go over when it's important for treasurers to contact our office. One, if you have a new minister who's starting, or if your minister is leaving, please pick up the phone, make sure that we know about that. There may be paperwork that's involved. There may be something that we need to ask. It's just good for our office to know that there's someone coming or someone going. If your minister is retiring, then you need to remind them to contact our office at least 4 months before their intended date of retirement. So if over the holidays, a member comes to you and says, I'm thinking about retiring in June of next year, that seems like a very, very far away date, but they would need to contact us by February, which comes up pretty quick. If you're going to be hiring for a new position at your congregation, that's great. Just make sure that you let us know so that we can go over any requirements that there might be, and just so that we have it on file. We like to know what's going on, so we have that information. And likewise, if there's a change to a position, so if someone's moving from full-time to part-time, or from a 60% part-time position to an 80% part-time position, that can affect their calculations, like we saw when we did our examples. So just let us know that so that we can help you out, make sure that everything's done accurately so that there are no surprises come your end. And then finally, if there's a change in what your information is, if there are new people coming into the role of treasurer at your congregation, if there's someone leaving the role of treasurer at your congregation, if your email address is updated, if you have several people sharing the responsibilities, and we want to make sure that our emails go to 2 or 3 different people, that's all totally doable, but we need to have that information, and we need to have it up to date and accurate so that we can contact you as we need to. Increasingly, we are sending more and more information out by email, so it is really important that we have that information in our database. And then finally, if you ever have any questions, that's when you should talk to us. We never mind hearing from our treasurers, and we always want to make sure that we're available and that people know that they can contact us if they have questions. So before I get to the questions that are coming in, I do want to just go over quickly a few resources that are available for treasurers. The first one is a shameless plug, and that is for our own website. I hope that everyone has it bookmarked and it's used frequently. We did update it fairly recently, and so I think it's a lot more effective. I'm going to take you there quickly. I hear from time to time from treasurers that I don't know where on the home, like this is the Presbyterian.ca webpage, and people say, I don't know how to get to the pension and benefits section. So I'd like to make sure that I point that out. There are 2 really easy one-click away options to get you to the pension and benefits section. The first is to go to the resources in this top home bar and just hover over top of it. And this menu is going to pop up, and then you're just going to select pension and benefits, and that's going to take you right to our page. So that's resources, you just hover, and then you can select pension and benefits from there. The other option is at the bottom of any page that you're on the Presbyterian.ca website, you'll have this blue footer box at the very bottom. And we have a link in this as well. It's in the second column, the first one at the top of the second column, and that will take you to our pages. So this is our pension and benefits website. It's been divided out into 3 different main pages. There's one for active members, one for retired members, and then one for treasurers. So It's always great if you have questions from your member about their health and dental information, or if they're asking questions like about, what does their life insurance cover or something like that, then you're going to want to direct them to the website here, the active members website, where all of that information is available for them to download. And then for treasurers, we have lots of information on your page regarding how to do your job. So the first thing you're going to see is I like to put this sort of like a splash at the top of the page if there's an important update, something that's timely that's coming up, like this webinar. So tomorrow if you come back here, you'll notice that this little update here about the webinar is gone and will be replaced with the updated memos and the rate information. And that's just at the very top of the screen so that the most up-to-date information is the easiest to find. But you can close right out of that if it's not of interest. What statically stays on the page all the time is information on how to submit monthly remittances, what information is needed. You can download the forms here. A reminder that they can't include other funds. We do include the minimum stipend and allowance schedule, and this is the up-to-date one, the 2018 one. And then tomorrow, these will be updated to the 2018 maximum qualifying income, the 2018 health and dental premiums, the 2017 pension adjustment will be up here. And then we've also developed some worksheets. They're downloadable Excel documents that if you plug in your members' basic stipend, they'll actually do all of the calculations for you, which is very helpful. And then we have some old treasurer's bulletins, so ones that have been sent out previously, with information that is still current and informative, I think. So, public supply insurance, making sure that your assessments are sent in timely. And then finally, some forms that are common for treasurers need to download: public supply insurance, if you have a parental leave top-up, and then the remittance forms once again. So this is where the recording for today's seminar will be posted once we're finished. So, and then future resources will be posted to this website as well. So now that it's sort of up and running, definitely check back and make sure that you let me know if there's any sort of resource that you don't see here that would be helpful for you to see here. So another really handy resource for treasurers is the handbook. I do have it posted on our website. It's under current maximum qualifying income and rates. And there's just a link here to the Treasurer's Handbook. This was developed by Financial Services and has lots and lots of great information, far beyond just pension and benefits, information about how to pay the minister, budgeting, filling out T4s and other tax forms. All sorts of really great stuff is in there. So you can find it on our webpage, or if you go back up to the very top, and then go to resources again. And again, that's just hovering over the resources in this main menu bar. And then you select finance and administration. And it's about halfway down this page. There's the download for the handbook for congregational treasurers. So I'd really encourage, especially those of you who indicated that you were new to your role as treasurer, I'd really encourage you to download that and have a look through it. There's some really great information in there, and it's all current and up to date. And then this section also just has some really great resources in it, from what the minimum stipend allowance schedule is to how to fill out your stat report. There's some really great information that Financial Services has put on this resources page. So definitely have a look. I'm just going to skip back over to my presentation. So the Treasurer's Handbook, and then the resources in finance and admin. And then finally, give us a call. I hope, if nothing else, that you all take away from today's seminar is that we want to hear from you, that it's never a trouble, it's never an inconvenience. There's no question that is silly or stupid or not worth our time. We are a resource and we're here to answer your questions. So we have about 15 minutes left, and on that note, I'm going to get to some of the questions. So just bear with me as I go through the chat. I saw them coming in, and I want to try to get to as many of them as possible. And again, I do want to say if there are questions that are specific to your congregation, then I am going to have to just ask that you contact us separately, because we want to make sure that the questions that we go over are helpful for everyone. Okay. How do we ensure before year end that we have deducted the correct amount? It's a great question. So one way to do it is to double check your math and to redo your calculations as we come up to year end. So to do that, you would just go through the process again. What's my member's MQI? What's 9% of that for pension? What's 0.6 of that for group insurance? What's that broken out into either monthly deductions or however often the payroll is going out. And then you can call us and ensure that that amount that you've calculated is exactly the amount that we have received and is posted to our system. We get a lot of calls near year end, and we're always really happy to help treasurers ensure that they've deducted and remitted the correct amount, because it's so much easier to do that ahead of the game rather than to try to correct things after year end is already completed. So if you're unsure of something, or you just want to check your math, if you want to check to make sure everything has been that your books indicate has been sent in, has been received and allocated correctly in our database, you can either send us an email or just pick up the phone and give us a call, and we can go through all of that with you. Will the saved PDF be a fillable PDF? Oh, okay. So this is in regards to the remittance form that I was showing you guys earlier. Yes, our remittance forms are they are fillable. So when you save it as a PDF, it will be saved as a fillable PDF, and that's the same as if you print it as a PDF as well. Okay. Is health and dental compulsory? For ministers, yes. For non-clergy, don't want to give you wrong information. I don't believe, but I think that's one that maybe contact our health and dental clerk about. Can you save a blank fillable PDF for use next time? Yeah, you absolutely can. So I have one on my computer that I've added a button to that just blanks everything out, but you can just void all of the information that you've put in and then save it. I usually would try to save it as a different file name so that it's easy for me to find. So something, you could just add save as and then, blank form or something like that. So it's really clear. But also all of the ones that you download from our website, let me just go back to our website real quick. I'm going to go back to resources, pension and benefits. Anytime you download the remittance form from our website, it will download blank. So if you've gotten yourself all in a bind and you can't figure out how to clear it, you can always just download it again and it will be blank this time around. How do I get a copy of the PDF remittance form that is fillable on the computer? So again, that should be it should be fillable as soon as you download it from our website. We made all of the forms fillable. So if you're having difficulty filling it out, if for some reason it's not fillable when you're trying to populate it, it might be because you're looking at it inside of your internet browser, or the program that you're using might not be reading it correctly, but that would be an instance where I would say just pick up the phone, give me a call. I walk a lot of people through how to fill out and save and print the PDF forms. So that's something that I can definitely help you with. pulpit and supply insurance. What is pulpit supply insurance? It's a great question. So pulpit supply insurance is available to ministers who are a member of the health and dental plan, and what it does is it supplies funds to hire someone to come in if that minister is sick or injured. So there is a maximum of $150 per Sunday, plus an extra $25 per Sunday that the minister is sick or injured and unable to fulfill their duties, and that is for a maximum of 17 weeks. That was a good question. Okay, so we have someone asking how we know what their employer code is. Your employer code is the same as your congregation code. So it will have 2 letters that indicate your presbytery, and then it'll be 3 numbers. So if you don't know what your employer code is or what your congregation code is, that's information that we can definitely give you over the phone. So just give us a call and we can find your congregation in our database and help you figure out what your congregation or employer code is. But those 2 terms are interchangeable. They're the same thing. Okay, so part-time. How many hours constitutes 1 day to work out the prorate for MQI for part-time? That is a really great question. I believe it's 40 hours. So a part-time position would be 20 hours a week. Okay, that's all the questions that have come through. I do have a couple more that were submitted over their registration, but if you have any other questions, please send them through the chat. So we had somebody asking about how much should be paid for housing allowance, which is a really great question, but it's not one that our office can answer, unfortunately. That would be a question for ministry and church vocations, and they have a really great document on the website called Calling a Minister, and it goes over guidelines, including housing allowance considerations. So you can find that on the website. We had another question come through on the registration about group insurance premiums and if they get reduced when a minister reaches the age of 65. And it's a great question, and the answer is yes. After the age of 65, the coverage reduces by half and the calculation also reduces. So if this is applicable to your member, to your minister or other employee, then you're going to want to give us a call. We can walk through the calculation with you, but it does reduce after the age of 65. We had another question come through on registration regarding what's covered with the group insurance. So group insurance covers long-term disability, life, and accidental death. The details are all available in the plan booklet, which can be downloaded from our website. I'll show you that. And they're also, here, I'll show you this first. So in the active members section, under group benefits information, there are 3 links here. And those are the plan benefits booklets. So you can direct your employees to have a look there, and it will detail what's covered in terms of group insurance. Another really great resource to direct your employees to is mysunlife.ca, which is Sun Life's member portal. It's online. The member has to set it up themselves, but once they're logged in, it will go through exactly what their coverage is, how much benefit they receive for various elements of the plan, what's outstanding, if they have a balance on something still. So it's a really great website to direct your members to. I also don't do this very often with apps, but my Sun Life has a really fantastic app where members can submit claims right from their phone. So if that's something that you think your member would be keen on, then you might want to mention it to them. So we had another question come through asking what to do when a minister or a member leaves employment. So when this happens, please contact our office as soon as possible, either by phone or by email, because really it's what needs to be done is quite individual based on the situation, and so we would need to discuss it with you to determine what the next steps would be. So is, the member moving from one congregation to another, or is there another minister or member who's coming in to take the place of that position? All that's information that's going to sort of inform how we respond and what the next steps might be. So the best way for us to help guide you through the process is just to talk to you. So if you have somebody leaving employment, do contact our office. Okay, and those are all the questions that I had that came through on registration, and it looks like we are right at our 3:30 1-hour time mark. So I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your day to spend a little bit of time with me going over this information. I really hope it was helpful and informative, especially for people who are new to the role. We had quite a few new treasurers join us today. I will be sending out a recording of the session to everyone, so stay tuned for that. And I'll also be sending out a survey so you can offer your feedback. I'd love to see more of these online learning opportunities happen, so please let me know what information it is that you want us to give you. We want to make sure that you're informed and empowered to do your jobs effectively, and we really value the amount of time and effort that our congregational treasurers put into this work. So we really want to try to help you as best we can. So I'm just going to flip back to my PowerPoint here. This is my contact information. I love hearing from people. It's the best part of my job, is talking to all of you. So please give me a call, send me an email, and I hope to hear from lots of you very soon. Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye.